I am not a woman, but they are, and since people on Twitter, including Titania herself, insist that this show isn't for manly men like me, I'll let the women do the talking. Today, they'll be analyzing various aspects of She-Hulk based solely on the show itself. Yes, I know Jen's personality is different in the comics, but so was Star-Lord's personality, Kate Bishop's personality, Drax's personality, America Chavez's personality, Doctor Strange's personality. You get the point. But hey, if you want my professional opinion, this show sucks. Jaynalysis.
She-Hulk is your average Marvel movie with a female protagonist. That's basically how I would describe it. It's very, very Marvel.
It's like a superhero show about the girl version of Hulk, but she's a lawyer. So that adds an extra flair to it.
It's like a 2000s movie, like an early 2000s chick flick. That's the best way. And then it's sprinkled in a little bit of a superhero as a little bit of a spice. It kind of feels like a remix of Modern Family and Legally Blonde. If those two things had a baby, it would be She-Hulk.
Basically, it's this girl who basically turns into this giant green woman with the best hair ever because of an accident with her cousin, which is the Hulk, Bruce Banner.
It's kind of about her trying to navigate life, not only as a female lawyer, but also as this sort of new superhero where she doesn't really want to be a superhero. She just wants to be herself and be a lawyer.
An easy watch if you're bored and you like the Marvel series. I feel like it's just something to pass the time. Entertaining, to say the least.
Just a lighthearted Marvel TV show that describes the day-to-day life of Jen after she gains the ability to mutate into She-Hulk.
I do think it does hit the standard of Marvel spin-off TV series in the sense that, the jokes are there, the one-liners are there, you got the very campy, very upbeat kind of vibe to it. The plot itself, I would say, really had the right pieces, but overall just didn't know how to make them fit. I would have preferred, the court cases to be a little bit more compelling. I felt like they were a little bit more on the comical side than anything else. A lot of the time, it just felt like the joke was being overly explained to you.
The plots just... I felt like they were so not what the show was about. I felt like they didn't really support the actual meaning behind the show and what the show was about. I felt like it was just okay, so how does this add to the story?
I thought the plot was interesting. It goes off track. If you're watching the first few episodes, you see what they're trying to do is strong, empowered woman, etc., 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 and then it kind of goes off track a little bit, where it's kind of insecure Hulk. And it's I understand. We just switched tracks here. I thought we were going with strong and empowered. And this lasted maybe 3 episodes, and then I kind of switched.
In the beginning, it was really hard for me to watch. It was very boring, because there's a lot of lawyer shows. Maybe it didn't have to be focused on her job, I don't know. Because there's parts where she's like, oh, this is a lawyer show, and it's it's not a lawyer show.
I like how it's very connected, but it also feels very episodic, where there are threads that connect through, but you could also, for the most part, watch the episodes out of order, and it's just kind of a fun adventure with whatever is going on in that episode. There are some things you'd miss if you watched them out of order, because there are those threads that carry through, but the main kind of focus of each episode generally wraps itself up.
You can tell that they were pretty lackluster, but I think the main reason with that, and just phase 4 in general, is how rushed this whole phase feels, where Marvel is trying to push out so many shows back to back, where they just don't put as much effort as I feel like they really should.
Don't expect too much from it. And I hope that we get more Wong and Madison in the future. They're pretty awesome.
You can tell it's gonna pick up. Like, episode 8, that's where stuff starts picking up. I'm like, oh, okay, you get to see her Hulk out. Like, she's not just, like, in Hulk form and, like, normal. She's, like, you kind of see that, like, that Hulk smash anger that, like, you know, that people know. I feel like we're not here to see her be a lawyer. We're here to see her become She-Hulk, you know? I would describe it as a comedy, because...
I think that the humor is kind of cheesy. It's like, it's almost like it's trying to be funny. And then there are certain scenes where, like, Jen is actually looking straight into the camera, and then I'm like, okay, I'm getting, like, Modern Family vibes, because, like, it's like they're just being interviewed or something, and I'm like, okay, well, like, I get it.
The humor of the show is kind of just boring to me. It's pretty forgettable.
I just felt like every time Jen broke the fourth wall, she wasn't really adding anything of value to the plot. In fact, it just kind of felt like she was stating the obvious a lot of the time, so it wasn't really something that I personally enjoyed. It does have a little bit of over-the-top cheesiness to it. It can be charming at times. Other times, you know, it's a little bit, you know, it feels insincere. The bridge between the jokes and the way that the plot goes doesn't always line up.
It's like cheesy, sarcastic, but like it's Marvel and it works. So like if you like Marvel humor, then it works. I personally do. So I thought because I like cheesy stuff. So I thought that it's actually pretty good.
There are some points that are funny. Like, there are parts that made me chuckle. The way I, like, gauge if something's, like, actually funny, I'll rewind it. Like, if I hear something, I laugh, I rewind it, and then I want to hear the joke again. That didn't happen with this show. Luke's insults are actually kind of funny because, like, he wasn't subtle, but the way he just slipped it in there, he's just
Oh my god! Is the Hag convention in town?
The parts that made me laugh didn't have the main character in it.
I like it. Sometimes it's a little bit on the, like, cheesy kind of side. And I think me, being a female presenting person, probably sees some of the humor that other people might not. Because there's a lot of things that they talk about in the show or they cover that are true. And for people who don't know that that's what it's like to be a woman in North America, it's kind of shocking. But for those of us that do, it's on the, like, dark humor side.
The first time I actually started laughing was when she was at the wedding and she started fighting Titania. Titania wanted to, like, make her look stupid in front of everybody, but it ended up being the other way around.
Some of the jokes, especially in the earlier episodes, were very cheesy, and people, especially children, would probably find humorous. However, I kind of just sat there with a straight face and was like, I see what you were going for, but I didn't laugh because it's not funny.
I felt like the editing was a little bit, it kind of forced the humor. I felt like Hulk is a superhero, and I was kind of sad that, like, she didn't want to be a superhero. And yeah, there was this added comedy, and it felt very light, and it felt very not superhero-y. Because there was a point in time where I was just like, is this a superhero movie? Like, or a show? Is this a hero show? And I was just like, it doesn't really feel that way.
When it comes to the editing of the show, again, I really think that pacing was off, especially in the beginning, the very first episode. I noticed that we were kind of just thrust into this origin story that after years of superhero fatigue, I don't really feel like I needed a lot of that. So a lot of times with the editing, I feel like things are either too rushed or they're too slow. It feels like, you know, they either bounce from topic to topic or scene to scene, or they just drag out something that is so mundane.
When she goes Hulk, it's like this weird time where it's like, I was thinking too much about how they edited it as opposed to what the plot was. Because I'm like, why does she look animated? Like, did they animate the Hulk parts? Or like, how did they do this so that, like, I thought they just painted her green. I thought that's what they would have done, but it seemed very, like, there was some parts of the editing that just didn't really sit well with the focus level of me and everything. So yeah, that was my one complaint, I'd say. Mainly the animation between Hulk and Jen.
The visual effects, I thought they were pretty bad. Jen as She-Hulk it was so immersion breaking because it felt like I was watching a cartoon character interact with the real world. They didn't put any weight into her character. It was kind of like she was floating on the top of the ground. I feel like they should have worked more on a realistic animation rather than a smooth animation.
When I saw the trailer to this, honestly, I thought it was like really bad. The CGI looked absolutely horrendous, especially on the main character, She-Hulk's rendering. It just did not look good. However, when I finally tuned in, watching the first episode, I was very surprised to see that the CGI wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
The ADR was off at times. It's like their backs are turned and then like the sound quality completely changes and it's like, what? Who said that? That fight between Daredevil and She-Hulk, her mouth wasn't moving in time with the ADR, and I'm like, that was poor editing. Like, but other than that, like visual wise, the editing like wasn't that bad. It wasn't anything to be completely disgusted over.
My brain is very good at fixing things. So even something terrible, my brain, I guess it's just my imagination, like fixes whatever it is, and it's always done that. So it does it with books, it does it with movies, it does it with shows. So I can't really speak too much to that besides like it doesn't feel awkward when you watch the show. Just because, again, like even really old movies, my brain like fixes the old imagery and stuff like that. Or
when Titania first comes in, it's very odd because it's like, why did she just show up in the court? Like, I don't know I don't know. Did I fall asleep at that point? I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened.
I'm sorry, this is a side note, but can we just talk about like She-Hulk and Daredevil? Like, what's going on? What's going on? Like, what? Like, I'm just, like, what? Like, it's just, okay.
I really did not like the female portrayal of the show. It felt like it was written by a man. Because it felt like it just fit all of the female stereotypes. And in this day and age, I just wanted something a lot more progressive. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't originally drawn to see She-Hulk, if I'm being completely honest with you, because I felt like Hulk in general, like Bruce, he's a very emotional person. He's angry, he can't control his emotions, he can't control his rage, and I felt like all of those things just fit a female stereotype of, like a woman is very emotional, she cries about everything, oh, she's PMSing, oh, she's probably
Triggers are anger and fear.
Those are like the baseline of any woman just existing.
We're in a time where we're trying to break those stereotypes. We're trying to break those, a woman is more than just appearance. A woman is more than sex. A woman is more than her body. And instead of it being progressive, it just fit into the stereotype.
I personally was disappointed by some of the cliches. Everybody is constantly berating Jen for her appearance, which I know as a woman, this is something that you face quite often, unfortunately. But the thing is, if I want to see something empowering for women, I don't want to see other women doing it. I don't want to see, the whole shit that we saw at the wedding scene where Jen was told she was upstanding the bride, or when people were making fun of her lawyer suit. I'll be honest with you, I thought Jen's original lawyer suit was completely fine. The amount of hate that she was getting for her outfit choices really shouldn't have been a focal point of the show. I felt like the minute they started talking about, oh girl, we gotta get your hair, we gotta get your clothing, we gotta make you look like a real superhero, I felt like it was a little contrived. Because that's not really the point of She-Hulk. I figured She-Hulk was kind of more of like this woman's story about how she could balance, her work life and her personal life, and how she could take, what the public expected of her versus what she expected of herself. And I was really hoping that a lot of the times Jen wasn't reduced to what other people think of her.
And it feels like that's like setting the tone from the beginning, like this is empowerment to women. And then once Titania basically tries to steal She-Hulk's name with her beauty products, that's like where everything like turns around and is like woman against woman, and then that whole like empowerment to woman is like thrown out the door. Everything after that basically says women hate women, women are jealous of women, let's do everything evil to the woman we don't like. Like, that's the message from that point forward.
Just the main character's name.
Stop.
Jane?
Jen!
I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm mean if I say this, but she's boring. Like, I didn't find that there was that much depth. Like, if you think about it, like, most characters kind of have, like, superheroes have that, like, backstory. There was no backstory to Jen. She got in a car accident and got some Hulk's blood in her. It's like she had no incentive to really be She-Hulk, so it's like, you can kind of see why she doesn't want to. Like, nothing really happened, like, for her to be like, yeah, I want to protect the world. Like, so far, it's just been kind of like a selfish adventure, where it's like, you know, she's just doing stuff because it's convenient for her. And it's like, okay. Yeah, I just wish they had more depth. Like, the characters had more depth.
I felt for the most part they were stereotypical, idealized representations of people. I don't think they were accurate on either side of the board, but I wasn't offended by too much.
You have to understand that the show, in my opinion, is more like female oriented, which definitely creates like this imbalance of whatnot. But anyways, that's like not even a problem because, you know, it is She-Hulk, so I would expect more female characters. Not even more female characters, because you can have more male characters, but then people are always going to have like an opinion whether there is less females or too many females, because at the end of the day you can't please everyone.
They showed a lot of contrasts for the women characters. Like, they give you like one of each type. Like, one that's kind of ditzy, one that's kind of like that playful like best friend kind of girl, which was the Nikki. She was cool. I like her too. She was that fun friend kind of girl character. And then when they had Meg the Stallion on there, her whole aesthetic is like empowered women based on like accept your body for whatever it is and da 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 da. So they had a good spread of different women in this story. So I like that they did that.
They almost feel like they're based off of real people. It very subtly shows all these different aspects, like with Mallory book. The scene that stood out to me was that after they're done the case and it's all settled and the two of them are kind of like chatting and they're having a drink, and Mallory says something about she has to go home, and the paralegal is like, oh, you're ending the party, and Mallory says, well, I have to go home for my husband and my kid. And the paralegal is surprised. She's like, you're married and you have a kid? That adds a lot of realness to the character, because especially with women in workplaces that are like that, are very male dominated, or something with like high visibility like a lawyer, you have to keep a very professional image, and professional in quotations, because what's professional is being like the men. So Mallory doesn't even wear a wedding ring or anything, because again, it can be seen in cases like that as a sign of weakness, or that you're not committed to your job.
Like, oh my god, wongers!
Wongers!
I'm Maddie. What did she say?
Madison with 2 N's, 1 Y, but it's not where you think.
I like Madison.
Is it weird I don't hate her?
I genuinely LOL'd, and I was like, it caught me off guard, and it was really funny, and that was probably the funniest part of the whole series, if being completely honest with you.
What do you think of Madison? But I don't even know who Madison is.
Like, I don't love characters like that, but like,
when it came to Madison's character, I really feel like the Valley Girl trope is pretty overused. I mean, I got nothing against those type of women. I mean, they do exist. It is very stereotypical to assume that all women are like that. Overall, I wasn't really impacted.
That's the character that made me worry for a second about the show and its portrayal of characters, but women in general, because at first it seemed like she was going to be a stereotype, which she is a little bit, but not as much as I expected, which is good. And I actually really like her as a character.
I found her extremely annoying, hard to digest. However, I really liked her for Wong. I think they could be really good friends and they bounced off each other really nicely. Wong is extremely quiet and straightforward. Madison's the opposite of that.
She was very all over the place. She was very like free spirit, speaks her mind, when Wong was very disciplined, very like achieve the goal kind of thing. And I think that was probably my favorite side plot because again, there was that humor behind it and it was just, it worked really well and I thought it was funny and it was almost like I kind of just didn't really want to watch anything else because I was just like, I'm so focused on Madison and Wong. It was just funny to me.
She was probably one of the funniest characters, even though I wouldn't have laughed as much just because she's kind of very ditzy or that kind of dumb kind of girl character. However, I like her so much because of her carefree and she's just living her life and she's like not really caring what other people think or say about her. And that's what makes me like her. And then all of the crazy situations that she just fell into. Oh, maybe this is his, like, you know, his lover, his future lover, to make him, like, not so lonely. So that was, like, kind of nice. But yeah.
How do you feel about the male character portrayals in the show?
There's only one male portrayal in this show.
I think some of the male characters are portrayed kind of funny.
None of them I find are just like normal guys. They're just kind of just like, they have like a little edge to them or like a little like snarkiness to them that makes them slightly unlikable. Except for Josh, but in the end, he did that. So, you know, they're portrayed as like brutish or like, some hard-headed ladies' men, stuff like that. Like the men that would approach them, like that man that approached like them at the like at that bar, like it's just like a very big pattern. The way men are portrayed.
So when it comes to addressing sexist issues, a lot of the times when women are facing sexism, it can actually be done quite subtly, right? Like, yes, there are cases where it can be loud and abrasive and very direct, but there are little tiny things like minor cases of gaslighting. I felt like in She-Hulk, when there was a sexist character, they made it very in your face that this character was obviously someone that you were supposed to hate. Overall, I would say the portrayal of the male characters was very weak.
It was like there was multiple male characters that they were trying to portray as like doing women wrong. But the perspective from what I got, it really looked like it was just somebody creating this in this day and age of like, I hate men kind of thing. And I mean, they could have had a guy who was like a nice guy, which they did, which was Josh, and then they turned him into some evil villain.
They give the same, like, misogynistic male view, like, from the first view of men that come in, where it's like, oh, what's up, girl? We're just trying to talk to you. And they continue that kind of perspective, and they all are very controlling, and just, they keep this one perspective. Besides Bruce, who was like, Bruce, and they're not going to change his character because obviously he's the Hulk and he already has his character.
The men in the law firm and at the club where she walked out and she was catcalled, and I felt like that was very accurate. Her getting angry because she was catcalled, very accurate. One scene in particular where I was just like, wow, I loved this scene. Her manager came up to her when she was She-Hulk and she stood up and she was just this tall, big, muscular, taller than him, and he basically asked her like, no, we need to have a serious conversation, like, I need you to be Jen, I don't need you to be She-Hulk right now. And I think there was just such a power dynamic in that scene. It was almost like she had all the power because she was tall, she was muscular, like, you know, and he wanted her to be small because it made it easier for him to like control her and to fire her because he was intimidated by her size.
Most of them feel very real. Actually, all of them feel very real, but something that's really subtle that they do, and I think it might be part of why a lot of men in particular have a lot of backlash towards the show, is because they kind of flip the way men and women are portrayed generally in TV shows and movies. Because normally, it's the female characters that are a little bit more of the caricatures, a little bit more of the maybe they have some background, but it's mostly one-sided, one-faceted, where in this case, it is a lot more the male characters that are like that. And I think that's part of why there's been such a backlash, because for people who aren't used to seeing themselves or people that look like them that they can identify portrayed in a kind of caricature-ish or stereotypical kind of way, it's uncomfortable. And that's how we feel a lot.
So the changes that I would make to the show really tie back into the visual effects. I think they should have spent more time making that realistic and just mesh better with the rest of the show. It's just like a clash of styles almost.
I would rewrite the script so that we have more strong female characters, because I felt like the show lacked it. And for a show that happens to be like the lead is a woman, like you would expect the woman to be a strong female lead. But she didn't feel like that to me.
More drama and stuff like that. Like action, I guess. Because it's just kind of like typical life. So, I mean, I could appreciate the different plots, but I'm just saying it's not my style from the early parts, that's all.
I mean, there's a lot of things I could change. Like, it's very opinion based. Writing in characters, stereotyping characters, things like that. Just trying to create a balanced and equal space for everyone in a show like this.
It's like they're trying to play to a specific generation or audience, and it's like, you don't realize the generation you're playing to actually does not like it as much as you think. And just take risk and do things that would fit the show. Don't try to be a 21st century show. Just be a show. Like, you don't have to try to make references that you think we'll get, or like, cause honestly, I guarantee you, at least I did, I was like, ugh. It's like they forgot to add superhero plots to a superhero show.
I don't know, it's either you focus as her development in life, like with her development in life, because it only establishes like little bits and pieces of things. She's still struggling finding herself, and the story goes so back and forth, you don't focus on one enough. So it's like, how would you continue? Because you have two broken up stories now.
When you're talking about feminism, right, or when you're talking about mental health, because I feel like there were some undertones of mental health in the series as well. I kind of want more of a serious tone with that. I'm not saying I want dull and depressing. Humor is a very good coping mechanism, and humor can be beautifully executed when done correctly. But I overall just felt like some of the jokes took away from the sincerity.
I think you could do without the fourth wall breaks, but I understand, I think, why they have that, because it is a lot heavier and a lot darker if you take those out.
Let's not all hate on She-Hulk, because again, she is a woman, she is a female lead, she might be even stronger in the second season. Again, character development. I thought that she was oh my goodness. We're cutting that. We're cutting that. Okay.
And shockingly, She-Hulk shows a shameless degree of social shilling. Now, you may have noticed that someone was missing from this video. When I asked Hannah to be a part of this video, she said this.
I ain't watching that shit.
Now you be the judge and let me know what you thought of the show in the comments down below. While you're there, be sure to follow my social medias, but especially Twitch if you want to see me live stream. I live stream every single week, so be sure to follow me there. A big shout out to everyone who was able to make today's video possible. Please be sure to support them on their respective social media platform. You'll be able to find all of that in the description. If you miss hearing my voice, be sure to check out the Junior and Marcus Talk podcast, where my best friend and I talk about just about anything. If you want to talk to me and everyone else in the community, feel free to join the Discord. Oh yeah, my second channel also exists. Be sure to subscribe to that in case anything happens to this channel. And finally, please check out the merchandise. Every single purchase counts towards something. I'm hoping that at the end of this year or at the beginning of next year, I'll be able to put out some new merch. Let me know what you want. Oh my gosh, this was such a long video. You have no idea. Thank you so much for voting for this to be the winning video. I genuinely appreciate it. And I need a vacation. Until then, I'll leave you with this.
So when it comes to twerking, I don't really feel any particular way about it. You know, I don't really feel like I'm impacted by it. I don't really feel like it's degrading in any way. To me, it's just a type of dance.
It was really awkward, but Then again, when it's twerking, not really that awkward.
It was so corny. Like, and unnecessary. Like, I don't know. They wasted one of their post-credit scenes on that. Even putting her in the show, it just was like, it was unnecessary. I didn't hate it, but like, cause, you know, I like Meg.
I think it's kind of like a chick bonding thing. More so than anything else.
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why they added that. That doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, I get it because, like I said before, Megan Thee Stallion's concept is empowering women through their body. So, having that for She-Hulk when she's just starting to, like, get used to her as She-Hulk, that was supposed to kind of be, like, empowering for her. Again, I don't necessarily think twerking is empowering at all, but, I get the concept of having Meg Thee Stallion with her doing that kind of thing.
Kind of silly, honestly. I think things like that are, like, corny. Like, I don't really know why they would add that. Like, we understand that there's, like, a new celebrity that, you know, people know, but for the most part, I'm sure people didn't even tune into the show itself, because I saw that clip all over Twitter when it came out. Like, no one's tuning in to watch the show. Nobody cares. They just care that, like, She-Hulk is twerking with Megan Thee Stallion, and they're like, oh my god, blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's not even silly. It's not even funny. It's, like, it's corny. You know what I mean?
I don't see any issue with it, right? And maybe that's a controversial opinion or something, but I don't see an issue with it because, again, like, the characters are all real people. People dance, whatever dances. And it's normal. Like, sure, maybe it looks or feels a little out of place in, like, an attorney's office, but she's with her client who does that. They're both having fun. If Jen was a real person and her boss saw her doing that in real life, she's probably fired. Because that's how the world is. But the men that walk around and slap each other on the ass or slap women on the ass or whatever, there's no repercussions. Maybe a slap on the wrist.
I felt like they just added that because it was Megan Thee Stallion. Don't get me wrong, Homegirl could spit some bars, okay? Homegirl, she knows what's up. Yeah, she's a little raunchy, but, like, she's got it. And I felt like they strictly added that twerking scene just to, like, because she's Megan Thee Stallion, and that's kind of, I don't want to say that's what she's known for, but, like, it fits within the culture of Megan Thee Stallion. Was it necessary? I kind of felt like they kind of was playing with this, like, black stereotype. That's what I got from it. The only thing is that she didn't have braids and she didn't dress, you know, she dressed ghetto. Like, I just felt that I just